Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I've decided to do a quick voiceover at the beginning of this video because I filmed this yesterday, and when I went to edit it, I played it back and I absolutely hated what I was saying. I was rambling on for far too long. I'm going to put it down to the fact that I've been very tired this week, and it's sometimes difficult to film when you feel like that. But basically, I was just introducing the video, showing you my coloured pencil collection and where I have it stored at the moment. But I'm going to be choosing some of my favourite coloured pencils that I love to work with. I'm going to be choosing from 5 different brands that I use the most often. And yeah, I hope you'll find this video inspiring. It was certainly a lot of fun to film. So without further ado, let's get on to the swatching. I think I'll start with my very favourite Derwent Drawing pencils. It was really hard to choose 4 favourites. I could probably have chosen most of that tin. I think all of the colours are gorgeous because they're all very muted. I was thinking, have I got them in the back of this? No, I haven't got them in the back of this sketchbook. I'm using the Pith sketchbook today from pithsupply.com. This is a new sketchbook that I'm really loving at the moment. It's quite large, so I'm having to swatch from a distance. The camera is way up there. But what I'll do is I will try and swatch a little larger than I did last time, and I'll also bring them up closer to the camera so you can have a look. But I think we'll start with the Derwent Drawing pencils. Let's just write at the top here so we know what's what. I won't write each colour, but I'll tell you each colour because I think it will take too long to actually write them down. So let's start with, actually have 2 greens and 2 blues because I think the greens and the blues in their selection are particularly nice. So we'll start with this one. This is called Crag Green. So I'll try to do a larger swatch than I did. Was it last week or the week before? No, week before, wasn't it? Because I did the painting last week. That's a gorgeous, earthy, slightly greyish green, really muted. This whole set are just gorgeous muted colours. If you're a fan of muted colours like me, I would really recommend the Derwent Drawing set. I hope I'm not shaking the camera too much. I'm going to try and do this gently. So this one is Green Shadow, and this is a slightly colder green. This is still very earthy. It reminds me a little bit of one of my favourite pencils, Earth Green from Polychromos, Faber-Castell Polychromos. But yeah, that's another gorgeous colour. So the 2 blues that I've chosen are Smoke Blue. So let's swatch this one first. And I'll hold these up for you in a moment. It's actually quite nice to swatch in sort of ovals. Quite enjoy that. So yeah, as you can see, another really nice muted blue. None of these colours are super bright in this selection, or range, should I say. And this one that I'm using at the moment is called Ink Blue. So beautiful. These pencils are also really creamy to use. They feel very soft and smooth. I know some people can get a lot of detail with them, but I find them they're kind of chunky to use, and they're good for filling in larger areas. I notice on the tin actually, at this drawing has a lot of detail. I've never really been able to get that much detail with them. Maybe I'm just not sharpening them to enough of a point, but yeah, I like them for filling in larger areas of colour, and they give a really lovely texture. So just to go through these again, that's Crag Green, Green Shadow, Smoke Blue and Ink Blue. And I think they probably are my 4 favourites, although it's a really tough call when it comes to Derwent Drawing pencils. So next we're going to have a look at my favourite Derwent Lightfast pencils. I think I own about 20 of these. I've actually chosen 11. I chose so many because I just couldn't decide. There are so many great colours in the Lightfast range. They remind me a lot of the Caran Luminance, both in terms of looks and also how they feel when you're working with them. So yeah, let's have a look at some of my favourite colours. And yeah, I'm just going to do different numbers depending on which brand I'm looking at. I think I'm not going to stick to just 4 of each. There are just too many good ones. So we'll have a look at these. Let's just swatch these out so I can show you. So I think to start, we'll start with the Fossil Grey. I just love this colour so much. It's really like a almost violety, pinkish kind of grey, and again it's a really soft colour, just so beautiful and natural. I'll hold that up in a bit so you can have a look. I also really love the name of this one. I think Fossil Grey is such a great name for a colour. So next, let's get on to, actually, shall I? I'm kind of tempted to do the Mars Violet next. Let's do that one. This is so beautiful. These are also not dissimilar to the Derwent Drawing pencils, actually, in some ways. I would say the Derwent Drawing are a little bit creamier. Which one should we do next? Oh yes, maybe the purple. So they've called this purple, but it's not like your cold, bright, bluish purple. Actually, this lovely, again, muted, slightly warm looking purple. Those three make a really nice trio. And so here we have the palest of pale pinks. I don't know how much this is going to show up, but I will hold it closely so you can have a proper look later. But yeah, on this ivory paper, it doesn't actually show up that much. But it's just such a gorgeous pale and slightly, I would say slightly lilac pink. Salmon is also a really nice colour. Again, it's quite pale. I love the subtlety of these. And then finally, for the last pink, I've chosen Dusky Pink. The great thing about the Lightfast range is that, as you can tell from their name, they are actually Lightfast across the whole range. So they all either have extremely good or very good Lightfastness. So it's great to know that you can choose whichever colour you like and you don't have to worry about any of that. Right, this one is Light Aqua. This is so beautiful. I don't know how much it's going to show up because it is really pale, but it's also such a fresh colour. These are all making a really nice palette. I just thought I'm going to go with my instincts, and when I do that, colours seem to just naturally go together without any planning, which is quite handy. Which one shall I do next? I wonder whether to do, I'll do the Nightshade, because this is a very dark purple, so this is a cooler purple. But again, it's like this really lovely moody colour. I'm just naturally drawn to these kinds of colours. And one that I use a lot is Midnight Black. So it probably is going to look quite black to you, but hopefully you'll be able to see the blue in it. It's kind of almost like an indigo, really dark indigo colour. And this is good if you want to use something that isn't a pure black, something a bit softer. So that's called Midnight Black. I'll just say that again in case any of you are wanting to write these down. And then I've chosen two greens. So we have Spruce Green. That goes beautifully with the two Derwent Drawing pencil greens, doesn't it? And this one is Pine. So I would say this is slightly bluer and darker. Gorgeous greens. I'm thinking I might use these four greens in a palette together because they work really well. So yeah, those are my favourite Derwent Lightfast. I'm going to hold that up so you can have a closer look. So we have Fossil Grey, Mars Violet, Purple, Oyster, Salmon, Dusky Pink, Light Aqua, Nightshade, Midnight Black, Spruce Green and Pine. I think I've remembered those correctly. Just tilt them so you can have a really good look. That one looks a bit scratchy, but it's just because I was pressing down really hard in an attempt to make it show up a bit better. But yeah, really gorgeous palette. Love those with the Derwent Drawing pencils. I think Lightfast and Drawing go really well together. Okay, so next I think we're going to get on to the Luminance. Okay, so that was really difficult. There are so many Luminance pencils I love, but I've just chosen 10. These are 10 of, I would say, my most used colours and some new favourites as well. So let's start with, what should we start with? I think maybe this lovely pale grey. This is the French grey 10%. It's kind of similar to the Derwent Lightfast Fossil Grey, but it's not as pink. The Fossil Grey has that pinkish lilac kind of look, but this is just another soft grey, a little bit more brown, but very warm grey. And then we'll go on to some of my most used. So the Payne's Grey. We have Payne's Grey 30%, Payne's Grey 60%, you can tell that one's really well used, and just the Payne's Grey. So 3 different levels of Payne's Grey. All of these I use a lot. I've got through so many of these pencils. I have so many little tiny Payne's Grey stumps. I've kept them in a little tin somewhere because I need to use them with a pencil extender. But we'll start with the Payne's Grey 30%. Just for me, these are just so good to have in my pencil case because I love greys and I love cool colours as well. So these are cool and they're muted. And they are just gorgeous. They're so versatile. So this is the Payne's Grey 60%. So you'll see they gradually get darker. And finally, the Payne's Grey. I can't be without a Payne's Grey pencil, and the Luminance is, in my opinion, quite possibly the best. It's certainly the one I use the most. I do have Payne's Grey in other brands, but Theirs is one I just really love because it has that right amount of blue in it. So there's a very noisy plane going overhead. I don't know whether you can hear that. The next one is going to be one that I use so much, and that's violet grey. It's a little bit like Mars violet, perhaps. Slightly like the Mars violet. But oh my goodness, such a beautiful colour. I just love Luminance pencils. I love the way they feel. I love the look of them. I love the texture they give. It's very, very hard to choose a favourite brand because all of them have their pros and cons. But I think if I had to just work with one brand of pencil for the rest of my life, it would have to be Luminance, purely because I find them so enjoyable to use. I love the texture, love the muted colour range. Obviously they have lots of bright colours in their range as well, but the muted ones just really seem to suit my way of working. But that being said, I do have a couple of brighter ones here. I think next actually I'm going to swatch the dark indigo. Again, a bit like the Midnight Black, that one from the Derwent Lightfast. Reminds me a little bit of that, but I would say it's even more intense. And again, a great alternative. If you don't want to use black, I usually use this instead of black, and the Midnight Black as well from the Derwent Lightfast. I very rarely use an actual black pencil. So I think the next one we will look at, we'll leave those greens for last, and we'll go with the Anthraquinoid Pink. I discovered this a while ago and it really became one of my favourite pinks because it's just so, it's vibrant but it's not too much. It's like this kind of corally pink. Just adds that lovely pop of colour and works also really well with the Payne's Greys. I am loving this colour palette. I just always get so excited when I make new colour palettes. And this actually wasn't meant to be a colour palette exercise, it was just meant to show you my favourites, but they are working so nicely. I may actually use them together in a drawing sometime soon. Okay, so one of my favourite greens is the Middle Verdigris. It's pale, it's a little bit minty. It's beautiful. And then next, I think, shall we do the dark one? I think I'll do the dark one next. This is Dark Sap Green. This is one of my favourite dark greens. It looks not dissimilar to this one. This is the, what did we say that was? The Pine, wasn't it? Derwent Lightfast. It's not dissimilar to that, but it's just got a slightly, I guess, more intense. Would we say that's more intense? To me, to my eye, it looks slightly darker, but they are very similar. To be honest, if you have one, you probably don't need the other, but I like to have, certainly lately, as many greens as possible because I feel like they all bring something slightly different. Even though it's similar, it's not the same. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favourites. Great for landscape work. And then this one is a new one. This is the Olive Yellow. This is a colour that I wouldn't ordinarily have gone for, but because I've got really into using greens, which I didn't used to use, which I always say this, if you watch a lot of my videos, you'll know I've said that a lot, but I didn't used to use greens. I used to avoid them in my work for years because I couldn't see a way of making them work for me, and now I have, and it's like opened up this whole new world. So I'm loving using greens for my landscapes, as many different greens as possible. And I find that yellow greens, like this one, mix so well, or combine rather, so well with more muted greens. And why do I keep getting, it's like fluff coming off, I don't know whether it's coming off my top or what, but keeps appearing on the sketchbook. What was I saying? I've lost track. But yes, I was basically saying that they look really good with the earthy greens and the darker greens. Really love that to add just this, it lifts it. That's what I think it does, is it lifts it when it adds this pop of yellow green, this really bright colour. And even though I say really bright, it's actually still got a subtlety to it. Does that make sense? It's not like a garish colour. It doesn't like really, I mean, it's not really punchy. I don't know whether I'm making sense. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Anyway, I'll hold these up and you can have a closer look at them. So just to recap, we have French grey 10%, Payne's grey 30%, Payne's grey 60%, Payne's grey, violet grey, dark indigo, anthracenoid pink, middle verdigris, dark sap green and olive yellow. So next we're going to move on to the Faber-Castell Polychromos. These are actually the pencils I've been using the longest. I bought some way back in, I think it was 2017 perhaps, but they sat in my pencil case and I didn't really use them. I kind of just doodled with them more than anything and didn't use them for drawing because I wasn't into working in mixed media then. The way I am now, and I hadn't really found my style with coloured pencils. So as I say, it was only really in the last year that I've heavily got into using them. But I've had some of these for a while, but I've been adding to them as well since, and I really like them. I think they're a great pencil. So I've just chosen, I think it's 8 colours. And yes, these are some of my favourites. So let's swatch them and have a look. Right, let's do, I think, my ultimate all-time favourite and one of the first Polychromos I ever bought, the earth green. So I said earlier, it reminded me of this one. What was this? This was the Green Shadow Derwent Drawing. It does look very, very similar. But again, there is a slight difference. I would say that the Derwent Drawing Green Shadow is slightly more grey. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous colour. If you want to get a very natural, well, I was going to say earthy green. It is actually called earth green. Yeah, get this one because it's just, I think, such a beautiful muted colour and yeah, very natural and great for landscapes. And probably all sorts of other things as well, but I mainly draw and paint landscapes. So the next one is the Chromium Green Opaque. And this is a slightly more yellow green, slightly warmer anyway. Again, very natural. Beautiful. Just love greens together. And then we have this one. This is a new one, the earth green yellowish. That's a really nice, slightly more springy kind of green, like when the leaves first open. So it's kind of like a leaf green, I guess. But again, still very natural looking, nothing too in your face. And this one is Juniper Green. This is another new one actually. I think think they have a really nice range of greens. So the other colours I chose as some of my favourites. I feel really bad playing favourites. I think I said that earlier, didn't I? I feel like I'm being somehow disloyal to the other ones because really all the colours I own, I love, or I wouldn't have bought them. But some I just seem to use more than others, and so I'm trying to show you the ones that maybe would appear more often in my work, and certainly some that I'm just very attracted to. Right, so this one is Light Flesh, but I think this is one of the ones I've had since 2017 or 18. They've probably renamed that now. And this is the Caput Mortuum Violet. So this is the violet shade. I really love their Caput Mortuum as well. This one's just slightly more violet-y. And so I chose it because I kind of felt like it's a little bit more unusual. And then we have their Dark Indigo, which is nowhere near as much of a dark indigo as the Caran Luminance, which is that one there. So it's a much softer version. Good for night landscapes or stormy skies. And then finally we have their version of Payne's Grey, which again is quite different to the Luminance Payne's Grey, which was that one. So you'll see this one is far less blue. The Luminance has a real blue look to it, but this one is just much more just a dark grey really. So we have earth green, chromium green opaque, earth green yellowish, juniper green, light flesh, but as I say it may have been renamed, Caput Mortuum violet, dark indigo and Payne's Grey. So the final brand I'm going to look at today are the Holbein Artists Coloured Pencil. I've actually written Holbein Artist Pencil here, but they are, strictly speaking, Artist Coloured Pencil if you're going to be searching for them online or in your art shop. I don't own many of these, so I've only chosen 5 favourites for this brand. And yeah, I think this will be the last brand we look at, even though I do own other brands of pencil. For example, I have some Derwent Inktense pencils, but because I only have, I think it's 3 of those, I can't really choose my favourites. So I've stuck with the 5 brands that I have the most pencils of. That's not correct English, is it? You know what I mean. Let's get swatching. So I'm going to start with a pencil I bought recently, but it's quickly become one of my favourites. It's their Willow Green. So another muted natural green, but this time it's paler and it's slightly more yellow. I'm just looking at all of these greens and I'm feeling so inspired. Every time I look at greens, it makes me want to draw. I don't know why I've got such a green obsession at the moment. This is another one that somebody suggested to me. This is Celadon. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Let me know. It wouldn't be a Natasha video without me mispronouncing something, I think. So this one is kind of slightly I don't know, slightly turquoise maybe. It's a very bluish green, but it's really fresh, really gorgeous. Love that. It's quickly become a favourite as well. And so what should we look at next? Maybe this blue. Funnily enough, this blue is called smoke blue, which is the same as this one up here. That was also smoke blue, but I think they do look different. Yes, they do. This one is much more, I would say it has more of a purple tone to it. It's still very muted, very beautiful, slightly greyish blue. Actually, it's reminding me a little bit of the Payne's Grey 30% from Luminance, but not quite. Gorgeous colours. Very pastel-y, this selection that I've chosen. And this one is called Sea Fog. I think most of these were actually suggested to me by my subscribers, because I hadn't really tried Holbein Artists Pencils. And so they told me a few colours I might like, and I really do. And this one, this is going to look very similar to the Anthraquinoid Pink Luminance. This is Coral. It's not quite as bright as the Anthraquinoid Pink. It's a little bit more, actually maybe a little bit more coral. So let's hold those ones up so you can have a look. So just to recap, we have Willow Green, Celadon, Smoke Blue, what was this one? Sea Fog, and Coral. So there we go, there are some of my favourite coloured pencils from each of the ranges I own. I hope that that has somehow inspired you, and that maybe you've discovered a few new colours that you didn't know about before. Let me know actually which ones are your favourites. And do you have a preferred brand of pencil that you like to work with? Because I'm always interested in finding out about different brands and also about any new colours that you think that I would like. Leave a comment below and let me know. I will try to remember to add links to the different brands in the description box beneath the video. So it will link through to Jackson's. I actually really like how the top 3 brands here are working together, the colours I've chosen, so that might become a palette that I actually create some artwork with. So it's always time well spent when you spend time playing around in your sketchbook. Thanks for watching everyone, and I will see you again next week with a new video. Have a good week, take care of yourselves and stay creative.